running 16 miles per hour when he launched the completion. It's just another prayer compared to the last rites Miami invoked. Lazarus Laddles, doubting Gronk. We're going biblical with Ice Stone, Iz, and Cheddar Bill. Let's go.
Yes, you are.
Is anybody else weirded out that they're now giving us the MPH of how fast these guys are running? It's too fast.
Hail Mary.
Let's go around the horn right out of the gate. Plashke, one prayer at the end of the game. Are you going laterals or deep pass?
Laterals.
Gutierrez?
Absolutely, always laterals.
Deep. Blackstone?
Deep
Isola?
Deep
I
pass.
don't know. I'm hiring a rugby coach and I'm practicing the laterals. How the Miami Miracle happened.
Yeah.
How New England lost in the most non-New England way ever. What the thought process was with Gronk being back there for the biggest tackle of the game that he couldn't make. Here's Bill Belichick.
You know, they just made one more play than we did.
Frank, was it a one more play game or did Belichick lose an unlosable game?
Well, it was going to take a miracle to beat them, and you put Gronkowski back there to defend against maybe the deep ball, and if it only goes to the 10-yard line, you can deflection, catch the ball at the 10, and run in. The problem was the Patriots had 4 defenders around Drake within 3 feet after he had the ball within 44 yards. You have to make a tackle. Go look at the replay. Number 27 in your scorecard, J.C. Jackson is not pursuing the ball. He's not pursuing the man. He's playing the lateral. He does not start sprinting until the last play.
Okay, so you're fine with Belichick putting Gronk on the field, though. I want to get to that first. Plashke's shaking his head no. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, Frank, do not let Belichick off the hook on this one. This was on Belichick. Yes, somebody could have made that tackle. Devin McCourty, where was he? On the sideline standing next to Belichick. The same place Malcolm Butler was last year during the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I digress.
Here,
but Gronkowski should not have been in that game because they're acting like Tannehill could have thrown the ball 80 yards. Yeah. That wasn't going to happen. They needed a better defense. This is on Belichick.
Israel Gutierrez?
I think there's plenty of reason to blame Belichick, not just what Bill said. You go back to their possession there where they maybe should have gone for the touchdown there on 4th down and then forced the Dolphins to go 90-plus yards there. I'm not normally one to give the Dolphins praise here. I will say that it seems like the Patriots are somewhat allergic to South Florida altogether. It feels like really weird things happen when they come down to South Florida. But the Dolphins actually played really well. And in this situation, when you're playing against the Patriots, it always seems like they take you out of what you want to do. And, man, that happens so often to the Miami Dolphins. And yet in this game, they were able to keep up with them the entire time. And then at the end, where the Patriots get you on the tiniest of details, the Dolphins were ahead of the game. So have to give the Dolphins some credit for that. But it is shocking to see when you see this most prepared team in the NFL
has to give the Dolphins some
prepared.
credit for that. And he had a FaceTime basically in his answer. Is there any more time for the show? Let's go to Kevin Blackstone.
But Izzy's got a point there. I mean, this is the 5th of the last 6 times down there that the Dolphins have beaten the Patriots. Brady's actually got somehow, some way, a losing record in Miami. Nonetheless, this was an unbelievable thing. And Frank was absolutely right. Number 27, J.C. Jackson, by the way, a Maryland Terrapin. I was surprised to see Isola go after him, but he looked like he could have made a play, and the urgency didn't strike him until it was too late, and he sprinted down the...
But hold on a second. Everybody on the field could have made the play, except for a tight end who's hurt, who's only the best tight end of all time, yes, because of his hands and his size, yet can do absolutely nothing on the field there. Don't you think, Blackstone? Am I crazy here?
Well, I mean, he couldn't do anything on the field in that situation because he's not out there for that situation. He's out there to knock down a long pass if one was going to get up. He wasn't out there to make a play. But let's just give credit to the Dolphins. We see these plays from time to time, and it's usually when we get up from the couch or we get up from our seat and we head up the aisle. This time, the play actually worked. Sandlot football at its best.
Isola back in.
Well, Kevin, you didn't know, unlike Tony, what play they were going to run. See, Tony thinks that Bill Belichick knew that they weren't going to throw the ball deep down the field.
You knew he had 80 yards in his arm, Tannehill?
Against that.
You knew Tannehill was going to throw it 80 yards? That's what you thought was going to happen here?
No, Tony, he can throw it 65 yards. He can get deflected, and then the guy could run in. And that's why you put Gronkowski back there. They should have 11 athletes on the field. You don't need big, heavy defensive linemen. Basically put your kick coverage out there.
That's a better idea. Now you're on to something. Now maybe Frank's on to something. Plashke, last word.
I'm stunned that we praised Belichick for the last 15 years because he gets every detail right, and he gets one wrong, and we're afraid to go after him. This was his fault. He blew it. And you know what, Tony? I'm wondering if the Patriots aren't losing a little bit of confidence in him because of this situation. You saw what happened with Malcolm Butler last year. This is almost a similar thing.
All right, Plaschke seems to think that now Belichick is doubtable. Blackistone, you want to answer that?
I don't think he's doubtable. I mean, they played a fine game. I mean, Tom Brady had 3 touchdowns, well over 300 yards. Gronkowski was a huge force in this game, 107 yards receiving. Edelman was a huge force in this game. They got caught on one play, and you could be right, Bill. I mean, he just got out-coached on that play. But still, I don't think this means that going forward, this is a team that's going to be losing.
I'm not sure if it's because they normally play poorly in Miami or just their current situation. It does seem like the Patriots usually pull that game off against the Dolphins. Oh, you kept it close. We'll finish it down the stretch and close the book. The fact that they didn't do that, the fact that Miami continuously answered every time the Patriots went up, I think it says more about the Patriots and their position at this time of the year.
Belichick saying that Miami made one more play is an interesting way to get out of that. Because you can say that about every single game, but maybe you can't say that about the Bears and Rams last night. It feels like the Bears made about 10 more plays than the Rams did. One was has to be the heaviest play on NFL record. It was about Trubisky and 10 300-pounders. A game you thought was going to be offense versus defense, and it was defense on offense, and it was defense versus defense, and it was not very good offense. Goff had the 4 picks. Gurley didn't like the play calls, didn't get many touches, and Sean McVay after the game put it all on himself. Plaschke, we'll start with you. What did you learn about the Bears? What did you learn about the Rams?
Well, we knew the Bears were a great defense. I don't take anything away from the Bears. But this, to me, was on the Rams. The Bears stopped Gurley in the beginning, and the Rams panicked. The Rams stopped going to Gurley. He only carried the ball 11 times. That's absurd. And they put the ball in the hands of Jared Goff. It was cold, and he's clearly not a cold-weather quarterback, but he was horrific. And for the second straight week, he was less than what he'd been through 4 interceptions. So I put this on Goff not being able to step up, McVay not being able to step up. And you have to wonder about the Rams now in these kinds of situations. That's what I've said before in the show. If they stop Gurley, if they shut down Gurley, do the Rams have an answer for you? And I don't know, but the Saints are ready to stop Gurley coming down the road. This is a devastating loss for the Rams because, again, it puts them now in New Orleans for the NFC Championship game. Really devastating.
Yeah, it was difficult to watch. It was like they didn't properly game plan for this defensive line of the Chicago Bears. Jared Goff was back there calmly looking around and not realizing that they were men in his face every single drop back, it seemed like. And there were times where he would throw the ball and it looked like he couldn't even see the receiver because there were guys covering his face. And then you're not giving the ball to Todd Gurley enough. The guy averages 5 yards to carry. This would be the type of game where you start off giving it to Gurley and maybe loosen up that defensive line. And yet early on it was pass, and it just get the defensive line really comfortable rushing there. I think it was a bad game plan for the Rams, but I think it is very telling that is the type of team, that is the type of game that the Bears can win. Even when Trubisky's overthrowing everybody on the field, that defense is good enough to beat the best of the best.
Well, we said when they got Khalil Mack, we wondered what that was going to do for the Bears in terms of going forward. We now know this is a team that can get to the Super Bowl with this defense and that much offense. That guy, Vic Fangio, is not talked about enough, the defensive coordinator for the Bears. Whatever plan he came up with that was unmatched by McVay offensively was absolutely brilliant. You're absolutely right, Izzy. Every time Goff went back, he had pressure in his face, and it seemed like every time they went to Gurley, there was somebody there to drag him down. That defense is stupendous, and not only that, they were also able to control the clock with their own running game, using little Tariq Cohen to dart around. They had the ball like 36 minutes, so that also is great defense against a great offense.
Right, guys, Solo. That's a good point.
I respect the fact that the boy genius, Sean McVay, put this on himself. As both Izzy and Bill mentioned, Todd Gurley has to get the ball more than he did. But here's the thing, and Bill talked about, them, maybe playing in New Orleans. They're not a good cold-weather team. Traditionally, the L.A. Rams, when they've been in L.A., have not been a good cold-weather team. They're not going to have to play a cold-weather game. It's either going to be in L.A. or New Orleans, so they don't have a team that's built to win in the cold, but guess what? That's not going to happen this year.
Back to McVay's comments, Plaschke. This is your account. He said he was humbled. Does that mean anything to you? Is he exposed in any way?
Well, he always, first off, after any loss they've had in his regime, he's always taken the blame for it. So this is standard McVay. But in this case, I thought he got out-coached. I thought he got out-coached by Nagy, and I thought that he does need to make the adjustments. And Todd Gurley, after the game, complained about not getting the ball enough. He's your MVP. Give him the ball.
And here's the thing with Bill. What he wants to do is Sean McVay is a great coach, obviously, but let's be honest. He hasn't accomplished anything yet. Yet Bill Belichick has a game where his defense doesn't make a play, and let's all pile on Bill Belichick like he somehow is.
Wow, you're going back to this.
Right,
this
Bill?
is very interesting from you. Okay.
I'm on McVay.
Well, I mean, you praise guys as
accountable.
geniuses, and yes, I mean, it's more like a batting average, right? You get 6 in 10 calls right if you're a coach. You're not supposed to get 10 in 10 calls. But Frank, before you were accusing me of knowing exactly what the play was. No, I was planning for any play. Planning for all potential plays.
So
was he. Not just one 80-yard pass.
So was he.
He wasn't if you put an offensive player in the game.
Belichick.
We'll move on.
Frank.
Cowboys, Eagles. Dallas made one more play, and then that was after Philly made a play. How is this? This is just NFC East is going to be decided on this tip touchdown. Unbelievable. The refereeing in this game, the offensive pass interference that took back a Philly touchdown, the unnecessary roughness on Dallas on the next play, and even before that, to start it all, the fumble on the opening kickoff, where down by contact was originally ruled, which was clearly not the case. Then after Philly challenged, it was ruled to a fumble with no clear recovery, even though Philly seemed to think they clearly recovered. Malcolm Jenkins to the review booth.
Whoever's watching that in New York should stay off the bottle.
Israel, do the Eagles have beef?
Off the bottom. That's old school.
No, the entire NFL has beef on how the referees have been performing this year. And frankly, we talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago, where they just have so much to remember that sometimes, even in that amount of time where they review it and come back and check it, that maybe they still get something wrong. I don't think they had beef in this game. I don't think it cost them the game. I think that Dallas team showed you that they can overcome both the referees and maybe their own quarterback play because their defense is that good and their running game and their offensive line is that good. I don't think the Eagles had much to complain about outside of just general officiating.
Boy, I don't know. They took 6 off the board on a really questionable call there at a crucial part of the game. I thought that was big. And some of those other calls really left you scratching your head, and they seem to be coming in droves. So I thought the officiating was really, really critical. Now, to your point, Dallas had enough to overcome that on their end. The Eagles did not. But this was far more critical for the Eagles because they got the Rams coming up, and that might be their season.
Come on, Tony. There's no doubt about it that the Eagles got robbed on that opening kickoff, but here's the bottom line. The Dallas had twice as many first downs, and they gained 320 more yards. Dallas was the better team. Their defense outstanding, but Dak Prescott needs to play better if they want to win multiple playoff games.
Plaschke.
Yeah, Dallas, 455 yards passing, 576 yards total. I think the Eagles need to look at those numbers before popping off. They got beat bad defensively. This was on them, but it wasn't the
Well, it was because of a split in the time of possession and the sheer number of plays Dallas ran opposed to Philadelphia. And that's when you're talking about that change of possession at the opening kickoff and things of that nature. All right, look at these scores. Gutierrez, Blackest on Plaschke. Frank, maybe you want to bring in another panelist, maybe an offensive-minded panelist in this next
bring in
segment.
Belichick.
It's never worked.
We'll be back.
It's never worked with Gronkowski in there. Never. Never worked with Belichick.
Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
Time for buy or sell. 4 division leaders lost this week. Pats on the Miracle, Bears, Rams played each other, so one was definitely losing. Texans to the Colts. But the Steelers to Oakland so brutally. And on that, why Ben Roethlisberger wasn't playing immediately after returning from the rib treatment, but instead sat out 3 more possessions. Mike Tomlin after the game.
We were waiting to see if he was going to be able to come back in. He was. Probably could have come in a series or so sooner, but we were in the rhythm in Florida game. He was ready to go when he got back out.
It was 2.5 possessions, Bill, that Roethlisberger was watching Dobbs on the field play. How did you hear that from Tomlin?
I heard him, what he really meant to say was, we thought we had the game won. We're saving Roethlisberger for New England next week. We thought we can get by with Dobbs out there. That's what happened. Tomlin blew it there. He just has to admit it.
Gutierrez?
It's perfectly fair to criticize Tomlin on a number of issues in this game, including putting Ben Roethlisberger. And if you listen to Ben's quote, he said, well, coach said, let's wait. And then he kind of gave me the nod like, okay, let's go. Against arguably the worst team in the league with you coming off two losses with your season almost on the line here, that's a bad decision by the way.
KB?
Yeah, the way the Steelers have bounced back this year, I mean, we talked about them at one point being maybe the strongest team in the AFC, and now all of a sudden they're at the precipice. Not a good decision this time.
Wow, you guys are doom and gloom here on the precipice, season on the line. I know they've lost 3 straight.
Here comes Frank. Frank's going to defend him.
Frank Isola, how about you?
You know what? He sits there saying we're in a rhythm, the flow of the game. Dobbs was 4 for 9 for 24 yards. And this is a game you have to have. Like Bill said, you have New England, New Orleans, then divisional game against Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, not a lock.
So you're not defending Mike Tomlin here. I thought you were going to say, he should have brought in T.J. Watt to play on offense for a little bit, maybe play quarterback. I thought that's maybe where you were going with this.
Wise guy.
Kansas City needed magic to beat Baltimore. Let's talk about the 4th down Mahomes to Hill hookup. I told you it was next-gen stats. 31 yards of scrambling, ran 16 miles per hour when he threw it, although I'm not so sure about that. Completion probability was 15%. Israel, did the Chiefs get lucky on this play, or was this good? And were they lucky or good in this whole game?
I mean, I think they should feel charmed just in general when you consider that throw. And it was on 4th down. It was like, here's the game. It's all or nothing. And you've got a gimpy Tyreek Hill still out racing everybody to catch that. It wouldn't have mattered that much to them had they lost that game, but coming back to win that game just shows, man, it feels like they can do anything right now.
At that moment, if that pass wasn't completed, New England was leading Miami, and they were trailing and could have lost that game. I think that game matters. Of course it does. Blackistone, how about you?
Well, as has been said, luck is the residue of design. That was a play, but like you said, you've got Tyreek Hill out there on a bad wheel. He's making the throw Mahomes is that you should never make in this league. You got 4 defenders out there, and somehow it still finds Tyreek Hill. A lot of luck there.
You know, it seems like only a young Aaron Rodgers can make that throw, but I like what the Ravens did. They pressured him, and it took Mahomes to make this miraculous play to keep the drive alive, to keep it going so they could win the game. The guy right now is the MVP
Frank,
of the
did
league.
you see a formula from Baltimore on how to get through Kansas City, how to beat Kansas City?
And Tony Romo kept talking about it all throughout the game. You got to pressure him, make him make quick decisions. He does fumble the ball a lot. That's a concern.
I say it's a formula. Maybe Baltimore's the only team, at least in the AFC, that can do that. Flash, how about you?
Yeah, but Frank, they did pressure him. He completed 16 passes under duress, tied for the most of any quarterback in the last 10 years in this league. So what we saw in that Tyreek Hill play, he was doing that the whole game. This is not a charm. These guys believe in him against the #1 scoring defense. I mean, I can imagine the belief in this guy is 100%.
A 2-hour players-only meeting. 2 hours! That's what we're talking about in buy or sell 3. Bulls lost. Worst loss in franchise history. 56-point loss to Boston on the weekend. Then, according to K.C. Johnson in the Trib, before the meeting, players group texted about whether to even show up at the practice facility Sunday. Reports that they're pushing back on new coach Jim Boylan's aggressive coaching style, which he calls shock and awe and heavy on conditioning. KB, what to buy, what to sell here?
You know what? I'm usually with labor on these issues, but you know what's the shock and awe? These guys just lost by over half 100, right? Gave 133 points to Boston. You're 6-21 in the NBA, and you're going to complain about having to practice? We're talking about practice. You need practice.
Frank Isola?
And Jim Boylan subbed out his entire starting 5, down 13-0 in the first quarter. That's fine. But in the third quarter, the score was only 5-3, and he took them out again. He embarrassed the players, but I can't believe that they would actually sit there and consider boycotting practice as bad as you played in that game. Ridiculous.
So you see this as an instance of the coach embarrassing the players, not the players embarrassing themselves, Frank?
Both. Combination of both.
How about you?
Absolutely.
Everybody's embarrassed here, but what the coach, he's doing the right thing. But you know what? It's not going to work. We know it's not going to work. Players win in this league. This will not last. I guarantee you he'll be a sacrificial lamb. He'll be gone.
Gutierrez.
It's the Chicago Bulls, and it's the top of the organization. Until they get the Paxton Foreman situation settled, you're going to have situations like this where players feel like they have to take control, and a new coach who's coming in, it feels like he has to play the bad cop. Chris Haynes reported that the players actually went to the Players Association to complain about the length of the practice. That's got to start from up top. It can't be this new coach.
Seriously,
it can't be these young
2
players.
hours is a long time for a practice for NBA players? I had no idea. Honestly, if you're going to tell me 2-hour practice versus 2-hour meeting, I'm taking 2 hours of practice every day of the week. Get me away from the meetings. This is a meeting and showdown. Gutierrez and Blackistone next. Kevin Blackistone, say hello to each other. You're in showdown. No time for chit-chat. Let's go. 4 teams in the AFC tied for wild card number 2. Baltimore after the heartbreaker in KC. Miami after the miracle. Tennessee was Thursday's winner. And Indy after going to Houston, snapping the Texans' 9-game streak. Israel, who's in the best position to get wild card number 2?
I still like the Ravens here, not the Johnny-come-latelys, especially when you consider the offense that they're running with Lamar Jackson. It's hard to get adjusted to, and Lamar Jackson's only getting better. I still like the Ravens hanging on.
Yeah, but it's not just because of that. It's also because of what Woody Page would say. It's look at the schedule. They got Cleveland and Tampa coming up before they have to tangle with the Chargers. I like their situation a whole lot better than everybody
That
else.
Chargers game is looming large, though, on the schedule.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
You know, Israel, if Baltimore was committed to Lamar Jackson, if they were to tell us he was the starter for the rest of the season, that'd be something I'd like to know. We'll move on. Most impressive feat of the weekend. We have Patrick Mahomes, talked about him earlier. He also had a no-look pass on Sunday. Baker's fakers, phony Patricia, or Joe Philbin losing both his challenges 1 minute and 23 seconds into his first game back as a head coach. KB, most impressive.
Oh, I love Baker's faker. Are you kidding me? It looks like he ought to be on the Harlem Globetrotters in the off-season. That's tremendous. You never see that. You see a Statue of Liberty, but I've never seen a quarterback do that in the pocket. That's fantastic.
How about that no-look pass by Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, about 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and he didn't even look after the pass was completed. He was still looking away over here. That was the most impressive sight of Sunday.
Yeah, it is amazing. And Kevin, since you asked, I am not kidding you. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. I'm also not giving you
Efficient, great offensive seasons over there, and won 2 championships, and he retired without a 4th championship. He'll have won 2 out of 3 in Miami. Those 4 years were so incredibly magical. It's shocking to me that people don't think of that immediately when they think of LeBron James.
You're right about that.
He played in Miami. He played in Miami.
Take a mute. We'll be back tomorrow, 23.5 hours.